Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Mother-in-Law Stories. As usual, I've picked out 3 stories that have to do with mother-in-laws that plainly either suck as a mother-in-law or as a grandma, and we're going to start with the latter. My mother-in-law will do anything to get at me. It doesn't matter who she hurts in the process, as long as the result is something to hurt my feelings. She has always been upfront about the fact that she doesn't like children. We have 3 children, ages 13, 9, and 1. She is actually nice to the 13-year-old, but with the 9-year-old and especially the 1-year-old, I was told to get rid of them as soon as she found out I was pregnant. She even told me when I started bleeding during my pregnancy with the baby, it would be better if I went ahead and lost him. In fact, she hoped I would. A few months ago, she called to say that my brother-in-law wanted her to get her will renewed because she said he was worried that I would try to take what was his after she dies. Like I could do that. I told her up front that what she does with her money was her business and I wanted nothing that she has. Then we went to take care of her yard. My husband has to do her yard work and we do most of her housework since she had bypass surgery 2 years ago. She is fully recovered, but just too lazy to do it herself. We do this every weekend, and the kids walk her dog and do other chores around her house. Last weekend, when we went over there, she purposely left out her will that she had drawn up. She had divided her assets between her 2 sons, which is good, but then I read on, and in the event she survives her son, she had all of her assets donated to charity. This burned me up. She has 5 grandchildren, including my 3 that she doesn't care enough about to include in her will. Am I wrong in getting upset about this? My daughters do everything she asks of them, which is usually a lot. They take time out of their weekend to help her and never complain. I know that if I confront her about it, she will tell me, "They are your kids. You shouldn't have had them if you didn't want to take care of them." I know she's doing this to spite me, but I don't think it is fair to take it out on children. This is the only grandmother my children have, and she treats them like they don't or shouldn't exist. She has never held my 1-year-old son, and she calls him that damn kid. To her, he's not even worthy of being called by his name. She came over for his first birthday party last week and called me afterwards and told me that I needed to sell all the toys he got for his birthday to help pay the bills. I have been nothing but nice to this woman for 13 years. The only crime I committed was marrying her son. She was upset last weekend because my 13-year-old went out of town with a friend and she needed her cat litter swept off of the floor. It just hurts me for my children knowing that this is all she thinks of them. So I said to dear husband, and he totally agrees, that our kids no longer have to go to mother-in-law's house and do chores for her. They can come with us if they want and just play. If not, my awesome sister said she'd happily take them and have a girls' day out with the oldest 2. I'll, of course, take the baby with me and we can walk around the neighborhood. My dear husband says he has my back, as he also doesn't like one bit how his mother treats his children. It's taken a while to get to this point. My dear husband has finally had enough of her unloving behavior towards our children and is prepared to tell her that he will not stand for it anymore. And if she continues, then she can go ahead and remove him from her will and just keep brother-in-law as company, who hardly ever comes to visit her, along with doing all her chores by herself or have to pay someone to come in and clean her house, walk her dog, and mow her yard. I have to say, I'm very impressed with dear husband and I feel like we're a strong team standing up for our family and taking care of our kids. Well, finally, OP, I mean, it's been 13 years. It's a good thing that your husband is on this mindset now and he's gonna put a stop to his mom being such a crappy grandma. She's clearly a toxic, bitter old woman, so the best thing that you can do is just remove her from your children's life. They don't need her at all. I would say it's best to have no grandma than to have a crappy, unloving grandma. She'll either come around and start being nice, or she'll end up all alone. Sad, but that's on her. What do you guys think? I mean, apart from it taking 13 years to get to this point, which should have been a lot shorter, what do you think about the rest? Alright, let's move on to the next story. My mother-in-law called me a few days ago on the first anniversary of my beloved father's death. I heard this very, very sad, mournful voice on the answering machine telling me something like, "It's been a year since your father died." I work at home and was feeling crabby, hurrying to finish a job that was due that day. But I had been having a lot of flashbacks about my father's death. I was there when he died, and it was a very intense time. Of course I knew exactly the date he had died and remembered this time last year all too well. I think my mother-in-law and I have a lot of misunderstandings. So many things she says and does offend me. And as usual, I resented the fact that she seemed to think she had to tell me that. "This was the day your father died last year." Of course I know that. It irritates the S out of me. Maybe it was the wrong choice of words on her part and she was just trying to be nice. I'm sure that's more likely than not. Last year, at the time of my father's death, I felt I really had to keep her at arm's length for two reasons. First, she always seems to make her feelings the most important, above anyone else's. I was grieving my father's illness. He had terminal cancer, and she would come and ambush me and cry about it. I resented that because she wasn't that close to my father, and I felt like she expected, wanted, needed me to comfort her. I just couldn't stand that. She always expects me to be the strong one when it's just the two of us. She wants me to kill spiders for her, pick up the dead rabbit that the cat leaves in her house, etc. So I was supposed to be the strong one and comfort her about my father's illness. Why is she the one who always gets to have the feelings? The second reason was that I was so angry with her for the way she treated me the last time I saw her before his death. It was right before Easter, and although she wanted to come and visit after that, my dear husband protected me and said no. She was A, fussing, whining, and harassing me repeatedly to go to church on Easter, their church, just repeatedly harassing me about it, reminding me that I had never gone to an Easter service there. She has such a good memory, it's scary. She really keeps track. B, calling our home dear husband's house when talking about it to me. My kind father-in-law broke in and reminded her that it was our house. And C, complaining frantically about being bored. She acted like we needed to rescue her from this very serious problem she was having with boredom, while my father was getting sicker and dying. When my father was having his surgery, we were so scared and hopeful that the surgery would get all the cancer. It didn't, which the doctor had to tell us immediately afterward. When we were getting out of the car at the hospital parking lot, preparing for a long, tense wait in the waiting room, to my great distress, there were my in-laws getting out of their car, waving at us and walking over to go in with us. They surely meant well. I guess they thought it would be supportive of them to sit in the waiting room with us and keep vigil. My husband was at work. In her words, "He has a demanding job or he would have been with you." Really? I didn't know about my dear husband's work. I guess it's a lesson to me to try to be sensitive to the kind of support people want at a harrowing moment and not to just bluntly assume my company is what they want and need, or if giving them space would be more appreciated. I think it might be a personality flaw on my part. I'm such an introvert and tend to welcome all the space I can get. If I were a warmer, more extrovert person, maybe it would be a great comfort to me having everyone gathered around. But I felt so frustrated having them there. I felt like the energy I wanted to focus privately on prayer for my dad, etc., had to be channeled into being polite to my in-laws and hiding my frustration that they had invaded this private time. I don't know how successful I was at that. They probably didn't feel very welcome. I felt like I couldn't talk confidentially with my mother about our feelings and such, because they were there with us. I guess the lesson to me is, don't surprise people with my company at sad, difficult times unless I know they want and need me there. All they had to do was ask my husband if they should show up, and he would have tactfully, he is incredibly tactful, a genius of tact, said no. Also, they didn't even know my parents that well, but I tried to say thank you for coming, even though I so wished they hadn't. I didn't lie and tell them it was good to have them there, but I hope they couldn't tell how distressed I was about it. I know she wanted to be a part of things at the time of his death and at his funeral, but I just couldn't take it. We didn't invite her to his burial and I hardly spoke a sentence to her, although I did try to be polite. She insisted on having her time with me and told me she needed me to sit down and talk with her later, to talk about his death, and to tell me things people said about him. I felt like she was really always thinking about herself and her feelings at a time when it really wasn't appropriate. Now, if her sister died, I would have compassion for her feelings. But somehow, it's hard for me to feel sorry about her feelings when it's about my father. I would trust her a lot more if it weren't for the kind of person she is. Real, warm and gushy to people's faces, but cool and disloyal and evaluating behind their backs. I think she thinks of herself as warm and prides herself on it. She's not loyal to anyone, not even the people she calls her friends. She isn't warm. Warm is how you feel about a person whether or not they're in front of you. If you ask me, it's having a good heart too. It's not just gushing and saying in an effusive childish voice how wonderful everything is. Jeez, she's really a very unsympathetic person. She's always so hysterical and emotive about her own feelings, but if anyone else is upset about something, she just laughs. How would she like it if people laughed at her? I'm sure they do, behind her back. I don't know about you guys, but I get the feeling that the mother-in-law kind of crossed OP by being so overwhelming at a time that it was about her and her father and not mother-in-law's feelings about it. Reading through all of the sarcasm that OP laid out on this post, I'm guessing that mother-in-law really lacks self-awareness. What do you guys think? Maybe the mother-in-law's just trying to be nice, but she just really can't pull it off? Or maybe she is, like OP says, somebody who is just unsympathetic and only thinks about her own feelings. Alright, and on that note, let's move on to the final story. My mother-in-law loves to gush about dear husband and brother-in-law's accomplishments. I agree that both of her sons are quite successful in their careers and good people, but she is such a braggart, it is sickening. One of my friends got stuck on a flight with my mother-in-law just by chance, and he said he couldn't believe how she went on and on about her two sons. So, it's not just something my sister-in-law and I find annoying, but other people have noticed this too. My mother-in-law also seems to downgrade my and my sister-in-law's accomplishments. She pretty much told my sister-in-law straight out to give up her career to be a stay-at-home mom, and that sister-in-law would have to sacrifice for her dear son's, brother-in-law's, career plans. I don't expect her to gush over my accomplishments, but she actually makes comments that I think are passive-aggressive and nasty. She seems to feel that I should be willing to sacrifice and put my career on hold for my dear husband. What's funny is that dear husband is very supportive of my career. Presently, I am considering applying for grad school in the field I now work in. Once I graduate, I will be able to make a salary that can easily surpass dear husband's salary. My parents are also supportive of this, and are encouraging me to go back to grad school as well. My mother-in-law has expressed her displeasure at the idea of me going back to school. She thinks that it would be a financial strain for us. It wouldn't be. We are currently saving my paycheck to go towards my tuition. Dear husband's salary is good, and we bought a house below our means in anticipation of me going to grad school. She has also asked me several times, "Do you think it will be worth it?" This irritates me because it really isn't a question. She is literally commenting that she doesn't think it is worth it. Of course, I think it is worth it, or else I wouldn't be considering it. In many ways, I think she disapproves because I will have a higher degree and will be making a higher salary than her wonderful son. Isn't that horrible? She herself does not have a very good education. I'm not sure if she even went to high school. She does, however, have a very good job and earns a decent living. And I admit that she is good at her skilled trade. But it seems like she doesn't want me as a woman to pursue a higher education and professional career because she is insecure with herself. My mother had a career, but gave it up to be a stay-at-home mom. She regrets it to this day. After my brothers and I went to college, she felt stuck. She did not keep up her certification and therefore had no career to go back to. Due to my mother's experience, she has always encouraged me to at least continue my career part-time, so I will be able to transition back to being full-time after my kids are grown and independent. My mother also respects my wishes to wait until I am finished with my graduate degree before starting a family. I think my mother-in-law wants us to start a family just so she can have more grandchildren. If things do work out the way I hope they do, I will be able to stay home with my future kids for the most part, be able to work part-time and make more money than I am now, while working full-time and putting in crazy hours. And I feel that I will be much happier with my career than I am now. Is that so bad? Some people just don't want to see others succeed. I fully support OP wanting to further her career through, going to grad school and getting that knowledge. I don't think she's reading her mother-in-law correctly. She might be projecting a little bit of her own insecurities onto her mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law just wants to have grandkids. That's it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. In my opinion, it's not a competition whether who makes more money, either OP or the husband. I think it's all about improving yourself. If your goal is to be the best CEO of the biggest company in the world, then go at it and do what you need to do to get it. If your goal is to be the best stay-at-home parent in the universe, then go at it and do it. I believe that life is not a competition, that it's about doing what makes you happy, which in turn will make happy the people that you love and that love you. But then again, that's just my opinion. Alright, and we've reached the end of the video once again. If you liked it, go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed yet and you do like the content, then go ahead and click subscribe. And don't forget to visit the Lost Genre subreddit where you can cross-post stories that you'd like for me to feature in videos or share your own story if you feel up to that. Okay, and having said all that, I'll see you guys on the next video.